All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Myth and Magic. I hope you're wearing your cozy socks and have your favorite drinks. You might see this cup a lot. It's so simple and plain, but it's my favorite mug. I don't know why, but here we are. All right, quick disclaimer. Like in the previous video, we will be touching on miscarriages and a mother being hurt, potentially unalived by this particular creature. The Manananggal is the one that is specifically, it specifically targets unborn children and mothers. So if that is not something that you care to have as a part of this segment, go ahead and skip. And yeah, we will be moving on from that in our next creature. I hope. I need a review and make sure, but I think the Manananggal is the one that we are having to circumnavigate in that way. But here we go. We are going to continue on our journey through the Philippines and go back to a creature that we discussed lengthy-ish in our previous video when we were talking about the aswang. So, settle in to the strange, shadowed corners of a folklore as we dive in to the next creature together. Because tonight, the one we're talking about is one of the most haunting figures in Southeast Asian mythology. A creature that literally tears itself in half to hunt. And yes, we are talking about the Manananggal. I might have been missing one of the nuns in my previous video, which means I was saying it wrong the entire time. This is what we're going to do. At least right here, I'm going to cut the video to my husband saying this word because it's way cooler when he says it than when I say it. I sound like a child trying to pronounce this word. We are talking again a little more in depth about the Manananggal. I feel like that's easier than just doing it the 2 times. Or maybe I've actually finally adjusted and am having a better time. Regardless, we're going to move on. The name alone carries an unsettling sound. Here's where I'm going to insert my husband.
Manananggal.
Almost something ripping or tearing. And that's not far from the truth. As we mentioned in our previous video, if you were there, this creature literally tears itself in half. This creature comes from the rich folklore of the Philippines and is often described as a terrifying vampiric being capable of separating its upper torso from the lower half of its body in order to fly into the night in search of prey. I mentioned in the last video, I wouldn't be mad about just severing myself. I mean, I would. That wouldn't feel good. But in theory, if I could survive without having my lower half, I'm going to the GI doctor tomorrow. So I'm ready to just let it go. Anyway, if that image of the Manananggal tearing itself in half made you pause for a second, that's a good thing, because the Manananggal is one of the most visually disturbing and symbolically complex monsters in global folklore, and what it represents also. So tonight we'll explore its origins, its terrifying powers, its place in Filipino culture, and how it has evolved from village legend into modern horror icon. The etymology. The word Manananggal comes from the Tagalog root word tanggal, which means to remove, to detach, or to separate. Adding the affixes transforms the word into something like the one who separates itself, and that is precisely what the creature does. Unlike traditional vampires that simply stalk the night, the Manananggal's most famous trait is its ability to split its body at the waist. Its upper torso sprouts large bat-like wings, and flies off into the darkness while the lower half remains somewhere on the ground. It's kind of like a vampire and its coffin. In some mythology, the vampire can reassemble. D&D players, if you're having trouble with a vampire coming back, it's because you have to actually, like, the coffin, if the coffin isn't a thing, the vampire comes back. So that's kind of what this torso separation reminds me of. In other Filipino languages and regional traditions, similar creatures exist under slightly different names. But Manananggal is the term that becomes most widely known in literature and modern media. The Manananggal belongs to the broader family of Filipino supernatural beings known as the aswang, which if you didn't see my last video, that is what we talked about there. The aswang is not a single creature, but rather a category of shape-shifting monsters, witches, vampires, and ghouls that appear throughout Filipino folklore. Spanish colonial records from the 16th and 17th centuries already mention villagers fearing creatures that attacked pregnant women and newborns during the night. Spanish missionaries often wrote about these beliefs while trying to suppress what they saw as pagan superstition. But the legends almost certainly predate Spanish arrival. Many scholars believe the myth may have roots in pre-colonial animist belief systems, where spirits and supernatural entities were believed to exist alongside humans in forests, rivers, and villages. In agricultural communities where childbirth was extremely dangerous, unexplained deaths of mothers or infants often required explanation, and folklore provided one. The Manananggal became a supernatural scapegoat for tragedy, but over time, it also became a symbol of fear surrounding the night, illness, and even social anxiety surrounding women who lived outside traditional roles, kind of like the witches in the Salem witch trials, where they were being accused of witchery because they were strong, independent women who didn't want to live according to the patriarchal society that they existed in. Unlike many monsters that are simply born into their monstrous form, the Manananggal often begins as a human woman, singular. Different traditions explain this transformation differently. Some say the curse is hereditary, passed through family bloodlines. Others say a woman becomes a Manananggal through witchcraft rituals or by consuming a mysterious black chick, a supernatural familiar that lives inside the body and grants dark powers. Another version suggests that the transformation occurs when a woman makes a pact with a dark spirit in exchange for power. In many legends, the woman lives an ordinary life during the day, and she may even be a neighbor, a midwife, or a respected member of the community, which is perhaps the most terrifying part. The monsters hide in plain sight. During the day, a Manananggal appears completely human. Often she's described as beautiful, quiet, and slightly mysterious. But at night, the transformation begins. Her body splits at the waist. Her upper half grows large bat-like wings and sometimes elongated claws. Her eyes glow in the dark. Her tongue becomes unnaturally long, thin and tube-like, designed specifically for feeding. The lower half of her body remains hidden in a dark place, sometimes in a hollow tree, under a house, or buried in tall grass. Not the place I would put it. This detail becomes crucial because if the lower half is found and destroyed before the upper body returns, the Manananggal dies. This vulnerability is central to many of the folklore stories, and we talked about some of them in our previous video. Like many vampire-like beings in world mythology, the Manananggal is primarily a predator. Its preferred prey is chillingly specific, and if you haven't left the video already because of my warning about miscarriages and passing due to childbirth, now's the time to maybe skip or say goodbye. But the Manananggal specifically preyed on pregnant women and unborn children. According to legend, the creature lands on the roof of a house and extends its long proboscis, I think, like tongue through the roof or window. The tongue pierces the mother's womb and feeds on the unborn child. Ugh, it makes me sick just talking about this. In other versions, it drinks the blood of sleeping victims. This horrifying detail likely reflects the tragic realities of maternal mortality and infant loss in earlier centuries. Without medical knowledge to explain complications during pregnancy, communities turned to supernatural explanations. The Manananggal became the invisible threat lurking in the night. In folklore, the Manananggal is often depicted as cunning, patient, predatory, and secretive. She is intelligent enough to hide among humans during the day and ruthless enough to hunt at night. Some stories portray her as purely monstrous. Others suggest she may struggle with her curse, torn between human identity and monstrous hunger. These interpretations appear more frequently in modern retellings and film. I think present-day storytellers want to find the good even in that which is evil or dark and show that humanity exists in all things. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I think it speaks to our evolution in compassion and compassion through storytelling. Now, the Manananggal possesses a frightening array of supernatural abilities. We've mentioned in the last video, flight specifically. Its wings allow it to glide silently across villages at night. Body separation has been mentioned. It can smell blood and pregnancy from great distances. Shapeshifting, we know that she looks like a regular woman in the day and then transforms at night. And for the Manananggal specifically with animals, she is known to change into a bat or a bird. The Manananggal also has hypnotic influence. Victims sometimes report feeling strangely sleepy or unaware before attacks. She has night vision, and not just night vision, but perfect sight in darkness. It's not like putting on those goggles that give you night vision. She can see. It is daytime for her eyes, okay? But the creature also has a weakness, and we have mentioned this earlier, but traditional methods of defending from a Manananggal include salt, garlic, this one's new, ash, and vinegar. These substances are sprinkled on the creature's lower half while it is away hunting. When the upper body returns and cannot reattach, the creature dies at sunrise. She has to be whole in order to live during the day. The Manananggal is commonly depicted with several recognizable elements: bat-like wings, a severed torso, a long feeding tongue, clawed hands, and a blood-stained mouth. These images appear in Filipino horror films, artwork, and even Halloween decorations. The creature has become one of the most iconic modern monsters in Southeast Asian folklore. Unlike deities or nature spirits, the Manananggal is not worshipped. Instead, it was feared. However, belief in Aswang witches historically led to real accusations within communities. In some villages, people suspected neighbors of secretly being supernatural predators. These accusations sometimes caused social tension or ostracism. In this way, the myth functioned both as a supernatural explanation and a social warning. In modern times, the Manananggal appears in neo-folklore discussions and cultural storytelling, but again, not worshipped. Some Filipino storytellers reinterpret the creature as a symbol of colonial trauma, female power, and the social fear of women who reject traditional roles. Things are so different now. At least in some ways. In horror fiction, the Manananggal is sometimes portrayed as tragic rather than purely evil. The Manananggal has inspired countless works of visual art, particularly in Filipino horror. Here are some specific places you can explore the imagery. Classic Filipino horror cinema, you have the 1927 film Manananggal, one of the earliest Filipino horror films. It's now lost. Interesting. Then you have the 1960 film Manananggal versus I don't have some of my pronunciations and guides didn't make it in. The Mangkukulam. Then you have the film series Shake, Rattle, and Roll, which we mentioned in our previous video. This show features famous Manananggal segment. Modern films like the 2016 Ang Manananggal sa Unit 23B is a modern dramatic horror interpretation. And then there's the 2012 Corazon Ang Unang Aswang. There's also illustration and concept art. Artists on ArtStation frequently create modern horror interpretations of the Manananggal. Even Art Filipino folklore galleries feature hundreds of interpretations, and you can search Manananggal folklore art to find stylized and traditional designs. We even have museum and cultural exhibits. Filipino folklore exhibits at the Ayala Museum in Makati City sometimes feature Aswang folklore imagery. There's also the cultural discussion at the National Museum of the Philippines. That is it. I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you guys later. Bye.